host, Corey. I'm a late diagnosed autistic ADHDer, and I am a neurodivergent mom raising a neurodiverse family in a neurotypical world. In today's episode of the podcast, we're going to go more into executive dysfunctioning, which I've been covering for a little bit in these past couple of episodes. But today I just wanted to go a little bit deeper on exactly what those executive functions are, what they affect, and things like that. So an executive function has been described as the set of directive capacities that allow a person to engage in purposeful processing on perceptions, emotions, thoughts, and actions. It's the control and coordination of cognition processes, and it's brain-based skills that help the brain organize, act on information, initiate, and perform tasks. Those skills, the executive functioning skills, then enable people to plan, organize, remember things, prioritize, pay attention, and get started on tasks. And they also help people use information and experiences from the past to solve current problems. Now, your executive functioning is controlled by the frontal lobe of your brain. So this is where the thinking, the planning, organizing, problem solving, emotions, and behavioral control all come in. And in this particular prefrontal cortex, again, it's your attention, behavior and judgment, and then emotional responses. The frontal lobe, if I can get a little bit geeky on it, it is the last part of the brain that fully develops. And for individuals who with neurological differences like autism and ADHD, we know that there's things going on in our brain that aren't the norm. And one of those things that ends up being affected is our executive functioning. So examples, again, on executive functioning, there's response inhibition, which is the capacity to think before you act. Working memory, which is the ability to hold information in memory while performing complex tasks. Or emotional control, which is the ability to manage emotions to achieve goals, complete tasks, or control and direct behavior. Flexibility, which is the ability to revise your plans and in case you have setbacks or if you get new information in or if you're making mistakes. So the flexibility also plays into the perfectionism trap. I think that so many of us who are either autistic or have ADHD run into. And then the response inhibition, that's the really thinking before you act or thinking before you say something. Then there's others that, again, really tie into what I've seen in so many other individuals who have ADHD, which is sustained attention or the ability to keep paying attention to a task, especially with the inattentive type or the combined type. Then we also have that whole hyper-focusing thing, which ties into somewhat with the sustained attention. There's task initiation, which is the ability to begin your projects without procrastination, planning and prioritization, or being able to create some kind of roadmap, for lack of a better word, to reach your goal or to complete a task. And organization, which is the ability to create and maintain systems. And executive functioning also includes things like time management, which is the ability to estimate how much time you have. This ties into the time blindness piece that I'll be talking about in an upcoming episode. There's goal-directed persistence, which is the ability to have a goal, follow through to the completion of that goal without being distracted. And then metacognition, which is your ability to take that mental step back and really look at the bird's eye, the overall picture of yourself in the situation and how you problem solve. So executive functioning, again, it begins developing right from the time that we're infants. And then again, the frontal lobe is the last one to fully develop. So that's what the executive functionings are. But then when you have executive dysfunctioning issues, it can come across looking like procrastination, the time blindness, laziness. It can look like chaos in terms of a lack of organization. It can look like, I think I've said this before, it looks like rabbit holing, or it looks like procrastinating. For me, it looks like procrastinating or researching, doing particular tasks or doing other things that are maybe semi-related to the thing that I'm working on, but not fully related in terms of how that's all going to come together. And again, this comes in with the time blindness, or the really inability to be able to see time. And again, it comes into the prioritizing and being able to say, okay, these are the things that I need to do. This is the order that I need to do them in, but then not following through with that. So as much as we have executive functioning, things that are tied to executive functioning, we also have things that end up being executive dysfunctioning because of the neurological differences that are in our brain. Now, it's not to say that you're going to be or going to have executive dysfunctioning across the board. You'll probably have some executive functions that you have very strong areas in, and then you'll have executive functions that are a little bit weaker and may need to be worked on. My main thing, because executive functioning does affect both autistic and ADHD individuals, it wasn't looking at, okay, this is because of the ADHD or this is because of the autism, so let me go treat it that way. It was looking for the areas and the overlap and looking to see how I could support those things, and then developing strategies, developing systems, and also reframing my thoughts around it. So it's that 3-tiered approach to strategy, system, and mindset. And that has allowed me to at least make some progress with the executive dysfunctioning issues that I have going on. It's still a work in progress, and I've also recognized that and come to terms with the fact that it's never going to be quite perfect, but it does support me in such a way that I don't feel like I'm struggling so much with it. Does it work all the time? Absolutely not. I still have plenty of days where, I can't get organized, or I can't get started, or just any number of things. And then I just end up doing all of these random things throughout the day that maybe add up to something that I was supposed to be doing, but does not give me that complete picture of, okay, I've accomplished this goal. And when we have days like that, it's also, I think, really important for us to recognize that, yes, we are still being productive, and maybe we didn't quite reach that goal, but what can we do the next day or the next day to get ourselves back on track? And this is what I do, not just for myself, but for the clients that I work with. So if this is, again, if this is something that you would like to work on, I would invite you to go to coryathome.com/work and to book a discovery call. We'll get on Zoom and we'll just talk and see exactly what executive functioning issues you might be struggling with, and how we can develop strategies, systems, and then put the mindset in place to overcome them, or not just to overcome them, but to develop something to better support you. So that's what I have for you today. Again, this was just a brief overview of what the executive functions are and how and the things that they control and the things that they affect. Over the next couple of episodes, I'm going to be going deeper into some things in particular that really affect the autistic and ADHD brains. So things like the time blindness, the procrastination, it was like the prioritizing, sustained attention, the task initiation, organization, response inhibition, the working memory, the flexibility. And then once we get into the emotional control piece, we'll also start talking about the emotional regulation and emotional dysregulation, because again, those are also things that really tie in and affect autistic and ADHD brains. So that's what I have for you today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.